Welcome to Watches with Dennis, and today I think I've got at least a somewhat fun topic. I wanted to go over 6 cringe phrases that I hear all the time in the watch hobby. And I mean, I probably have used some of these. Some of you may have used some of these. There are definitely a lot more than 6 that I'm going to cover that I'm aware of. But I wanted to pick 6 that bother me in some way, shape, or form. And the reason why I find them somewhat cringe, or maybe a lot cringe, really depends on which one it is. But let me go ahead and just get started. So number 1 is the phrase real watch. And it's a pretty big misnomer. So unless you're wearing like a paper watch that doesn't actually tell time, any watch is a real watch. I think a lot of people use this phrase when they're trying to express the first time they spent money of a significant amount. So maybe they mean luxury watch. Though, I mean, for example, my first nice watch, that was a phrase I would usually use in place of this, which would be a Citizen I got rather than, say, a drugstore style, really inexpensive watch. So there are other phrases you can use, but real watch on its surface doesn't make any sense. It implies that you've never either owned a watch at all before or all the watches you owned were fake, which really doesn't make much sense. Kind of married to that is my number 2 cringe phrase, and that is starter watch. This isn't like a sport where we're gonna practice with some, let's use the big boxing gloves, the nice soft padded ones, and then we'll get down to the actual regulation size as we get better at the sport. Don't know if that's the best analogy, but that's kind of how I think about it. So a starter watch, like, you either know how to tell the time or you don't. What a starter watch, again, if we were just to take it on the face of it, is that a digital watch because you don't know how to read the hands of a clock? Is that what we mean by that? That's not what most people mean. It generally is more along the lines when I've seen it used where people, let's say that they really want a Rolex with a Cyclops at the 3 o'clock, but they don't want to spend that much money. So maybe they buy a Citizen with a Cyclops at the 3 o'clock position. And then they think of that like as a starter watch, but it doesn't really make sense. You just didn't want to spend a luxury amount of money on a watch. But it's not a starter watch. The Citizen watch is just as good for a veteran in the watch hobby as someone who's just starting out. So again, the phrase itself just doesn't really make any sense. The third phrase, and this one might be the cringiest on the list, is God tier. Not because of any religious connotations. It's that the phrase itself implies that it's the pinnacle, the absolute best you can have. A watch that can do anything and everything that you would want it to do. And no watch can do that. If you go on the ultra luxury end, at that point, you're usually dealing with watches that, while maybe robust, are relatively fragile compared to a watch line that's often mentioned in the God tier, which is G-Shock. And I really do enjoy G-Shocks quite a bit. They're robust. They are really thus ideal for a lot of situations where you may be uncomfortable wearing a more traditional style watch, say a luxury watch or a regular steel watch. I mean, they're designed to take a shock, hence the name G-Shock. Calling them God tier doesn't make any sense, though. Those watches are completely ruled out in dress situations, like wearing with suits and stuff. They look completely out of place. It's not a universal watch. It's designed as a tool to serve a tool function. And it does a really good job about that. But I can't see anything being a God tier watch. It would almost be a watch that is all you would need in every possible situation. Let's go ahead and get to the 4th one that I have of these cringe phrases, and that is one watch collection. Again, kind of like the first couple that I did, this is one that bothers me because it doesn't make any sense, or it's incorrect, it's inaccurate. It's not possible to have a one watch collection. There are other people in the YouTube space that have mentioned this. There are also others that talk up the one watch collection. There's not a one watch collection. There's one watch. I existed before I was in the hobby of watches with a single watch for like 13 years. I didn't have a one watch collection. I had a watch. That's it. The watch could be a luxury watch, could be a cheap watch. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what scale the watch is. A lot of times people will take a particular watch, like a field watch, for example, and often try and argue that because you can, change the straps and everything, that maybe this particular watch could serve you in all those situations that I mentioned didn't really apply because a God tier watch can't exist because it can't ever really do everything ideally. But if you want to talk about a watch that maybe could reasonably function in virtually every situation you'd be in, could you do that as one watch? Absolutely. A lot of people, most people probably only have one watch and don't really think about whether it's ideal or not. It's just that's what you got. Just like a lot of people might only have one pair of shoes, and that's the pair of shoes they wear no matter what the situation. But it's a total misnomer to describe a one watch collection. You can't collect one of something. Just doesn't work. Defeats the whole purpose of the word collection. Fifth on my list is a phrase, and I'm guilty of using this word in the phrase quite a bit. One of my grails. Okay. Now, I think describing a grail watch is fine. A lot of people actually will probably push back on that. And go ahead and make a note in the comments if you're someone who actually finds the word grail itself cringy in the watch hobby space. But I'm okay with the word grail. I'm not okay with one of my grails. And the reason is there's only one grail. So again, kind of like the one watch collection thing, it just bugs me. If you've got a whole list of watches that you want, they're not really grails. They're just like desired pieces. In my headspace, a grail is obtainable, and other people will debate this, whether or not that's true. But I think a grail can be obtained, but it should require sacrifice. Like the price is either out of your reach or you're going to feel it, like you feel it when you make that purchase. For example, my Longa one that I have, that I identified as a grail piece from years ago. And it took quite a bit of work and quite a bit of sacrifice financially to be able to acquire that watch. Like it was uncomfortable to get the watch. And that's where I felt it was a grail. Now, if you had a grail and you lose interest in it, or you have a grail and you get it, you can identify a new grail. I think that makes sense, but only one at a time. You can't be like grailing it up. This isn't Pokemon where we're trying to gather up all of them. It's one at a time as a grail. There's only one grail. And thus, that's how the phrase should be used, in my opinion, in the watch collecting space. And finally, my sixth and last cringe phrase. This one, a lot of watch journalists are guilty of. In the metal. Oh, I cannot stand that phrase. It probably triggers me more than it should. Oh, actually, I know it does. Because it's innocent, obviously. All these are phrases. They're innocent. But I don't know. It just feels so pretentious. It's like we use the expression in the flesh all the time for things that we experience in real life. I usually just say when I talk about watch, I don't even use the phrase in the flesh. I usually say in real life. I haven't handled the watch yet in real life or in person because that's what we mean. But it just feels like at some point, watch media collectively came in and said, you know what? We're special. Let's not talk about experience it in person or in the flesh because, again, the expression is about us experiencing it and we're made of flesh and bone. But no, instead we're going to say in the metal because it sounds cooler. To me, it just sounds completely pretentious, not to mention inaccurate given the number of watches now made out of ceramic and carbon fiber. So they're not even all metal at this point, but we say in the metal constantly, or at least the hobby, the industry, especially the media does. I think I have avoided using this phrase in all of the videos I have done, but it definitely exists. It's deep rooted. I don't think that one's ever going away, but maybe of all of these on the list, I don't know, God tier kind of irks me too, but this one probably just, I don't know. I just wince every time I read it in an article because I just hate it that much. But anyway, those are 6 cringe phrases that I've identified that exist in the watch hobby space. I really would like to know what others you think are out there, or of course, if you disagree with any of these or want to further enhance on whether if I was too soft on some of the ones I ended up putting in the list. But go ahead and comment below on that. If you enjoyed the video and found it entertaining, please do give it a like. It helps the channel out. You can subscribe if you want to be notified when I have new videos. I have a 99-cent club if you'd like to further support the channel. There's a link in the video description for that. And there's also a link to an invite to the Watches with Dennis Discord channel where we share photos, talk about watch articles, talk about a number of things going on in the hobby that I don't even cover in the videos. So that's free to join. So please do so if you'd like to engage further. And other than that, I hope you all have a really good day.